Welcome into Los Angeles, California, and Reiter's Block presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook Watch. I'm Bill Reiter, and we got a great show planned for you. Former Cowboy NFL great DeMarcus Ware is going to be on the show. New UCLA head coach Mick Cronin is going to be on the show. And we'll get into this Eastern Conference Finals showdown and what it means now that it's a best of three starting right now. All right, well, if you were doubting Toronto's ability to win at home like I was, should not have bet on Milwaukee to cover. You, like me, got a course correction last night in a beatdown in which Toronto just dominated the Milwaukee Bucks. And so now we're in a situation. The team that advances to the finals to play the Golden State Warriors will advance in a best-of-3 tournament. There are several factors that are going to dictate what happens, and the first and foremost will be the star power and the stars of each of these teams. Kawhi Leonard versus Giannis Antetokounmpo. Both of these guys will have to bend the game to their will against the other guy, sometimes literally. And at least on the surface, it looks like Kawhi might have the advantage. He has gone through 9 of these situations where he's played in a best-of-3 series, in effect a series where it's tied 2-2 and there's a 5-6-7 to decide it. Giannis only played in 2 such series. Giannis 0 for 2 in each of those situations. But obviously there's some other factors we're going to get into. Home court advantage is a big one for Milwaukee, and so is the fact that Giannis' game has gone to another level. It's why he'll be, I'm sure, unveiled as the MVP after the NBA Finals. For Kawhi Leonard, though, and what he's about and what he does, his teammates understand and know when he is great, they have a chance to beat anybody, something Kyle Lowry, who's been really good in this series as well, talked about after the win.
We knew Kawhi was a little bit limited, and we had to come out and be aggressive for him. And the great thing about having him on your team is he still gets all the attention. And we fed off of that, drive, kick, swing. He gets in the lane, kick out, and, that's the benefit of having a superstar like him on the team.
But to be fair, and I think Kawhi is the overwhelmingly important factor for that Raptors team, we also saw what can happen when guys like Serge Ibaka play really good basketball. When there's some help for Kawhi Leonard, they can beat a team like the Bucks running away. For Milwaukee, they literally in this postseason have to have Giannis to be at his best to be certain to win. This year, this postseason, when Giannis scores 25 or more points, this is a Bucks team, as you can see, that's 6-0. When he scores 25 or fewer, his team is 4-3, and the rest of the team's point per game, as you're looking at right there, basically statistically identical. The fact is that Giannis is going to have to be the guy that steps up and that is the best player on the floor every single one of these 3 games, or 2, if by some chance Milwaukee's able to win the first at home and then win in Toronto. And here's where I think there's a little bit of an advantage. Home court advantage, it means something, it's significant, it is a comfort zone for somebody like Giannis and those teammates. And while Toronto dominated them last night in that game 4, and they absolutely whooped up on them, a large part of that, you could argue, is because it took place in Toronto, something Chris Middleton, who had a great game on the road, talked about. Now that the series goes home, how important it is that he and his teammates protect their home court turf.
It's disappointing, but the series is 2-2. It's not the end of the world. They protected home court just like we did. I know Game 5 is going to be a dogfight. Now it's the first team to 2 wins, so can't feel sorry for ourselves that we lost 2 in a row here. Have to go protect home court and then go from there.
There's an expression in the NBA that a series doesn't really begin until a team wins a game on the road. I hate that expression. I think that expression is incredibly stupid because that means that sometimes when teams hold serve in a Game 7, the series never started. No, the series is underway. Home court advantage is incredibly significant, but it's also home court advantage because a team earned it. The Milwaukee Bucks bench players, another huge part of this, should play better. I know the stats don't show this over the course of the postseason, but remember, Milwaukee hasn't been challenged in these playoffs. Not really. Not until now. They lost that one game against Boston and then rolled through that series. this Bucks team, this Giannis Antetokounmpo-led squad, needs guys like Brook Lopez, like Malcolm Brogdon, regardless of who's starting. They need Eric Bledsoe as a starter. They need role players and bench players to play better, and that will happen significantly more often when you're playing at home. It's a more friendly rim. You're going to get more calls. The crowd helps you. There's just a comfort zone that helps you, that really makes you feel like you've got your swagger, you've got your game. There's a mental edge. Kawhi's got the experience. He's got the experience in these closeout games. He's played incredibly well in them. Giannis hasn't been there. But I think if Milwaukee can go home and win Game 5 and play like the team they are, then they can play loose, relaxed basketball in that Game 6 in Toronto. It's by a thin line. I saw what Toronto did last night, but Milwaukee still has 2 of these 3 games at home. They still have Giannis. They still have Mike Budenholzer. And I think they're going to get the win tomorrow night. And I think they're going to get the series and play the Golden State Warriors in the NBA Finals. I've literally been betting and losing money on it lately, so I'm just going to keep my money where my mouth is. Give me Giannis, give me those role players and those bench players playing better in Milwaukee, and give me a hard-fought win. And it probably goes 7, but a hard-fought win for the Bucks. I still think you should fear the deer despite what happened last night. We got so many things to get into. We got Mick Cronin coming up. We got DeMarcus Ware coming up. 2 great guests on the show, starting with the UCLA head coach when we come back to the program here in just a minute. All right, welcome back into Writer's Block, presented by Staffen versus the Game on Facebook Watch. Had the chance to catch up with Mick Cronin earlier. We had a great conversation. My phone started ringing in the middle of the interview. It was a whole thing. A really good guy. I think you'll enjoy it. Here it is. Coach Mick Cronin, thank you for being here, and congrats on the new job at UCLA. It's very exciting.
Very exciting. Been a little bit busy last 6 weeks, but it's all good. Just trying to meet and greet everybody in Southern California, so that's taken up a lot of my time. But we're on the quarter system, so I've had a chance to get to know the guys on the team, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, and obviously, and I live here in LA, it is a very, very big job. It's a very, very important job in this community, and it's obviously a huge job nationally. And with that, Coach, there are massive expectations that come with being the head coach at UCLA. Why do you think, when you look at the program and you know what you can bring to the table, why do you think this is a job for you and that you can meet those pretty big expectations going forward?
Well, I think the key here with the expectations is you got to focus on day to day. You got to try to make the program better each day and make sure that we're doing things to represent the university in the right way, on and off the court. Obviously, UCLA is a great academic institution, so we got to be part of that fabric as well. But I think when you talk about our history, our tradition, it can be overwhelming if you let it be. I think it would be foolish to try to compare yourself to anything that's going on here, especially in the Coach Wooden era. You got to stay focused on trying to be the best coach you can for the guys on your team, and then create the right environment for your team to have success. So I'm up to the challenge. I'm looking forward to it, and that's part of the reason I took the job. I wanted to take on the challenge.
Coach, you've worked under some very impressive, some legendary coaches, and I'll include played under your father when you were younger. Who are the coaches, big names or otherwise, who shaped you the most, and what are some of the lessons that you learned from those folks that you're going to bring into this job here at UCLA?
Well, so I've been a head coach now for 16 years. So I would say the obvious ones for the people listening would be Rick Pitino, who's like an older brother and close friend of mine. Bob Huggins I worked for as well. Jim Leon I worked for at Woodward High School a long time ago. But in fairness, the guys that have probably helped and shaped me the most recently would be Darren Savino on my staff. I was hoping he would be the head coach at Cincinnati. It didn't work out, so he's the associate head coach here with me, hopefully for a short run while we get our program back to greatness, and then he becomes a head coach somewhere. But when he's been with me for a long time, so we've spent a lot of time together. So that would be the fair answer, because the people that shape you the most in your life are the people you're around every day. So the guys on my staff are the main ones. But yeah, the obvious answers to your questions. And then for myself, I got a lot of friends in the business, but a retired coach, Ralph Willard, who was at Western Kentucky, Pitt, and Holy Cross. His son Kevin's my best friend in coaching, but Ralph has always been a great mentor to me as well, along with Coach Pitino.
You said it. You have not looked for a job, searched for a job. You were the head coach at Cincinnati for a very, very long time in a business where some people do that. We see some continuity, but obviously for folks trying to better their careers and their families' lives and coaching as well, you have to move on a lot. That wasn't your path. So why UCLA? Why this job? Why now?
Well, I heard John Beilein say this last week. There's never a good time to leave because there's always fallout when you leave a job. So you have to get over that individually and realize that everybody's resilient, that you don't control the world. You don't have that much influence. Trey Scott, for example, at Cincinnati, who'll be their captain next year, he's going to be okay. He's a great guy. He's a great person. He can survive without me. You got to get over yourself. That was not easy for me. But that being said, why UCLA? For me, quality of life for my daughter, opportunity for my daughter. Always dreaming of what could you do if you were ever the coach at UCLA. Ben Howland's a friend of mine. Followed his career very close when he was here. Have a lot of friends in the Los Angeles area, and it's just it's a new lease on life for myself. For me professionally, the ultimate challenge to try to win the national championship at UCLA, to try to get the job done here. I'm one of those guys. So many people say negative things about. Maybe that job's too much, or the expectations are too high. I'm the right guy for the job, and that I do not listen to that stuff. So I try to formulate my own opinion, and I'll try to teach my players to do that as well. You got to define happiness and success for yourself, and you got to make decisions on your own. So the challenge of the job is something that really drew me to it.
Ben Howland, great coach. I had the pleasure to work with him on television for about a year, and I was aggressively pushing him to go to the University of Missouri, my alma mater, and we did not make the decision we should have and hired that gentleman while he was available. Great coach and a great guy. Speaking of a great guy, and I don't know him certainly in the way that you probably do now, but I've had the opportunity back in my writing days to shadow Kareem AbdulJabbar, to interview him a few times. One of the most interesting people, not athlete, just one of the most interesting people I've ever been around. And you had a chance to have a lunch with him, which is a pretty nice welcome to Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? What did you learn about this program, or just in general from, for me, one of the most interesting people I've been lucky enough to be around a couple times?
No, I would agree with you on that. Kareem is a special person. I think that we were able to bond when I had to spend some time with him, and then he came to another function at one of our supporter Rich Pacholski's homes, and Kareem made the time to drive all the way from Newport, which you understand. People maybe that don't live in LA don't realize that Newport up to 405 to get here is not the easiest thing in the world.
That's a terrible drive.
Yeah, so especially the time of day to be at a 6 o'clock function, welcoming me with a bunch of our supporters. But I would say this, Kareem, I think for the young generation, they know what he did as a player, but what he did as a person is what we talked about. And I told how much I looked up to him for what he stood for as a man, not afraid during the times that he lived in to stand up for what he believed in, and whether it was obviously equal rights, civil rights, and being free agency as a professional, and all the things that he was able to take on head on. And he's always a guy that he's extremely intelligent and very intellectual. And I don't know if people really understand how many books that he's authored, and just the great alum he is for our university. I mean, when you talk about UCLA and UCLA basketball, I think what Chancellor Block would want people to realize is what a great university. Right now, the world's #1 ranked public institution. And there's no better example of a UCLA athlete, what they've accomplished in their life, not just in the field of play, but also obviously as a person, in Kareem AbdulJabbar. So I agree with you. It's just getting a chance to be around somebody like him is a big perk of the job for myself.
Coach, I want to answer my phone and hang it up real quick. Hope that's not Kareem AbdulJabbar calling. I love this streaming TV live. I want to ask you about Shareef O'Neal, his status, and just what a lift it can be for the program that young man wants to play at UCLA.
Well, yeah, Shareef's been through a lot, obviously. I can't imagine what it's like to have to go through heart surgery at 19 years old. So just getting him back on track. My first week, I think he was allowed to start getting back onto the court where he could actually do basketball activity. And then he's got to build his strength and conditioning back up. When you're really shut down for 6-7 months of doing nothing. So he lost a lot of weight. But he's a very skilled player. But I think most importantly, people get to know him, especially the Bruin fans. He's a wonderful person. Sharif's just a great kid. I've learned that everybody I'm recruiting in Southern California knows him. Everybody knows Sharif. So he's like the Pied Piper of basketball players here in Southern California. So that alone will help us in recruiting. But he's just a great guy. But 6'9", extremely skilled. And as he gets his strength back, I'm starting to see flashes of what he can be as a player. So really excited about what he's going to become fall when he gets 20, 25 pounds back on his frame that he lost through the heart surgery.
All right, Coach, last question for you. You mentioned that one of the advantages of Southern California and the business you're in is there's 2 NBA teams. And as a guy that has covered LeBron James back in the day, it changed my life. It transforms the lives of a lot of people. He has a gravitational pull that I think folks don't understand unless they're around it. Can that have an impact on UCLA basketball? Can the proximity of LeBron James impact you guys in recruiting and just the vibe of being in LA? Or as incredible as that is that just a separate thing from what you have going on?
Yeah, I would say it's separate. But talking about the NBA, the half the NBA world spends the summer here because it's the nicest place in the world where, there's no humidity. Why wouldn't you want to be in Santa Monica, Brentwood, where all those guys live? And they come over to UCLA to work out every day. So that's a great selling point. So whether it's, the fact that LeBron's here, there's a reason he's here. He figured out where he wanted to live. Where's the best place to live? So that's my recruiting. If you're going to come play college basketball, why wouldn't you come to the best place in the country to do it? So all the NBA guys are here. I would say more of, the impact for us would be all of our former Bruins that are around all the time. And they've already reached out to me from Russell Westbrook on down the line to guys like Thomas Welsh, who just graduated a year ago. It's already been back to our gym. Aaron Follows prepping to make a comeback for next year in the NBA. Having those guys around, and we have so many guys in the NBA that played here, rooting for Kevon Looney here in the NBA Finals. Those are guys, their impact will permeate through our program the most.
Yeah, Kevon Looney had a really big game. Coach, I really enjoyed it. Congratulations. As a guy that just moved back after 2 years in New York and 4 years here before that, it is, with all respect to the Midwest where I'm from, Iowa, Missouri, I love you. It is the greatest place in the world, and I'm very happy for you and your family. Thank you for making time on the show, and good luck going forward.
I'll see you in Manhattan Beach.
All right, from the UCLA head coach to an NFL great, DeMarcus Ware joins me on the show in just a minute. All right, welcome back into Reiter's Block, presented by Stefan versus the Game on Facebook. Watch, I'm Bill Reiter, and I'm really excited to be joined now by former Cowboy, former Bronco, Super Bowl champion, 9-time All-Pro, 4-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler. There's so many accolades. Thanks to our friends at FedEx Junior Business Challenge. DeMarcus Ware is here. DeMarcus, thanks for it's a big resume, man. Thanks for making time.
Hey, just a tad, small resume.
I love it. All right, so when Jason Witten, your former teammate, made the decision to come out of the broadcast booth and head back to the field, you tweeted that you were sort of tempted to think about maybe adding to that playing resume. Were you joking, or did you actually have some serious thoughts about trying to play football again?
You know what? I wasn't joking at all. Actually, Jason Witten called me and he said, DeMarcus, I'm going back, and are you going back with me? I contemplated on it for a little while, a couple of days, but I decided not to do it because if your heart's not in it, don't go back. And, I played with so much heart when I played, so now I'm just teaching the guys and having a good time doing it.
Well, I respect that Jason Witten recruiting pitch to a friend and former teammate and a hell of a football player. So you're not going to be there. He obviously will be. How do you think he's going to do? What do you think we're going to see from Witten, given the fact that he took some time off in what's a very challenging sport?
I would say a rejuvenated Jason Witten, because he had a little time off, and now him going into the later parts of his career, I think now is going to be that time for him to lead. He's going to have an opportunity. He's going to probably play one more year, and I know that he wants to win this Super Bowl, and that's on his mind. I think he's going to be that missing piece of the team that's going to get him over the top.
Yeah, I mean, really exciting times in Dallas offensively and defensively. We had Jalen Smith on the show maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's an incredible story. The guy's obviously come back from that injury, and he's playing at a remarkably high level. What do you make of Dallas's defense, of Jalen, the rest of the guys, and what that defense can be this upcoming season?
I would say the defense is the corner part of the whole team because now you got Jalen Smith healthy. You got, Sean Lee, D-Law, he signed his deal. And now I feel like everything is together, and especially with Van Der Esch coming in last year and really taking a staple and solidifying that inside linebacker core. And so, especially with Jason Witten coming back, I think that they were missing that leadership part of the team in a later part of the season. And now Jason being there, once they get to the playoffs, is going to really have a long playoff push at the end.
We have seen just the nature of the sport and the way that the salary cap works. Some difficult financial decisions have to be made for teams lucky enough to have players who can be cornerstones for the long term if teams are willing to pay them. If Jerry Jones called you, if the Jones family called you and said, we need advice, what do we do with Dak Prescott? Do we pay him Russell Wilson money? What would you tell them?
I would say the thing is you gauge Dak on how important you think he is to the team. And that's always a business decision that, you have to make, and can he take this team to that next level? If they say yes, pay the man his money, just like Russell Wilson, and then close the door and get ready for the season.
Do you think that the Cowboys can win a Super Bowl behind Dak Prescott as their quarterback?
I think they can win a Super Bowl, but it's not just going to take Dak. You can't put the whole team on his back. I mean, you got to have, Frederick coming back, getting the offensive line right. You got to have D-Law, coming back right, and making sure the D-line is right. And with Sean Lee and everybody there, I feel like they can have a great playoff push, and they can make the Super Bowl this year.
All right, you sound very optimistic on Dallas. You also played for the Broncos. Interesting quarterback situation there. They bring in Joe Flacco. They draft from my alma mater, Drew Lock. What is your assessment of the job John Elway's doing in terms of trying to find a quarterback in Denver after a lot of guys that just have not worked out at that position, going all the way back to Peyton Manning?
He's looking for that quarterback just like Peyton Manning that can, really control the clock. And I feel like Flacco can do that, but also bring in a young guy in that can push him, push him to excellence in this, last part of his career. And they have a great defense already with Von Miller and, all the other guys there. So I think that them solidifying a veteran quarterback, but also having a young guy that can come in there and add a little spice to it is a great thing that Elway has done.
We know that the Chargers are a really good football team. We know the Chiefs even having lost some pieces, a piece, and maybe Tyreek Hill, will see what happens there. With Patrick Mahomes, are a really good football team. We'll see what the Raiders do with John Gruden, but some big additions through free agency and the draft, really a trade in the draft. Do you think Denver can be competitive this year, or are they, for your money, a year or two away from getting back to where they want to be in that division?
I think with their new coach coming in, they can be a competitor this year. It's all about how consistent they can be with the past 2 years, them turning the ball over as much as they did on offense. If they can control the ball and let the defense go out there and wreak havoc like they've always done for the last 3 years, I think that they can be a contender.
All right, so I got to ask you really quick before we get to FedEx. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. You're a huge Game of Thrones fan. I defended the season right up until the finale, and I hated the finale. My wife wants me to watch it again. Can you talk to me? Did I miss something, or are you with me? How did you feel about how that incredible TV show came to an end?
No, you didn't miss anything. I was upset about the Game of Thrones, and I feel like it should have ended differently. I need to go back and watch it just like you need to do. Maybe I missed something, but I feel like it should have been a little bit more action at the end instead of the way that it abruptly just ended.
All right, from something totally unreliable, Game of Thrones, to something utterly reliable, FedEx. I know you're working with FedEx. Can you tell us what you're doing in that partnership?
with the FedEx Juniors Business Challenge here, really just motivating kids to empower them to go out and be successful. We got to see today 4 awesome groups present to us today. We were sort of like the half of Shark Tank, but it was great to see these kids already have businesses built that have been running for a year or two, knowing their deficits, knowing how much they profit, but also how they can keep going in years to come. And that's what we're trying to do here, and FedEx is trying to do, is really encourage the kids to, really shoot for their dreams and keep it rolling.
DeMarcus Ware, really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for the time. And, if you decide to get back out there, if you change your mind again and you decide to play, let us know. We'll be happy to let the world know.
You'll be the first person. You'll be the first person I call.
Sounds good. Thank you to DeMarcus Ware for making some time for us here on the show. Thank you for hanging out here on Writer's Block. We appreciate you very much. The folks are taking over in Fort Lauderdale, Florida right now. Get you updated what's trending in the world of sports. Sportsline in 30 minutes, and we'll be back tomorrow. I'm Bill Reiter. This is Writer's Block on CBS Sports HQ, and we'll see you tomorrow.